Hello, Miss Ranjana. Hello.
Dear one and all, a very good afternoon. I, Sister Lily JMJ, welcome you all on behalf of Indian Social Institute, Bangalore. A wonderful wife, an outstanding friend, a marvelous daughter, an adorable sister, a nurturing mother, and especially the students from St. Aloysius College, Bangalore, JMJ College, Shigon, JMJ College, Sirsi, St. Philomena's College of Nursing, students from various colleges of Karnataka, and Fourth Wave Foundation and NGO partners welcome you all for this beautiful program. Today, we have eminent personalities that Miss Brinda Adige, social activist, Miss Lara Jasni, Advocate Bombay High Court, Miss Vidya Dinagar, social and environmental activist with us to share on the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. To begin with, I request dear friends from Fourth Wave Foundation to sing Women's Day song on this special occasion.
पूरे मन का तू तो बावरा है, तू ही जाने तू क्या सोचता है। पूरे मन का तू तो बावरा सोते जागते जो बरसे सपने बूंद बूंद नैनों को मूंद मूंद जो सपने बूंद बूंद नैनों को मूंद मूंद कैसे मैं चलूं देख ना सकूं अनजाने रास्ते गूंज सा है कोई एक तारा 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 in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place will be brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a better space, make a better place. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are the people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place, make a better place. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me.
I thank dear friends from Fourth Wave Foundation for their melodious and meaningful song. Now I invite Father Joseph Xavier S.J., Director of Indian Social Institute, Bangalore, of his message on this auspicious day.
Friends, in the name of the Institute, once again, I warmly welcome you for this webinar as we celebrate International Women's Day. We know this year theme we have, which UN itself has said, the link between the gender issues, social equity, and climate change are critical. How much we have realized it is a big question. Currently, I'm in Allahabad, in UP, with all high-profile tensions. I'm interviewing some domestic working women, construction labor women.
Yeah.
The connection is really bad here. Sorry about it. This is what we are looking for. The Institute is committed to the social equity, the gender-related issues, the dignity of women, and also which is linked to the climate change. And I'm so happy that we have three eminent persons. Brinda Adige, women human rights activist, Lara Jisani, who is also legal and human rights activist, and also Vidya Dikkar, an environmental activist. We, on behalf of the Institute, during the pandemic, we know the situation of the women. We made a research because we heard a lot about the domestic increase in domestic violence during the pandemic. Though UN in its report said the shadow pandemic, we are hit on the head. We are calling the research report as the gender pandemic, domestic violence. My connection is not that good. I'll just finish it. So we will be coming out with a report in a couple of days. That's our contribution. We understand why women go through these things. Of course, I'm sure the three resources will enkindle their inspirational words so that we get a glimpse of it and see what are the issues our women today are facing. Especially after the pandemic, we have seen completely the erosion of the dignity of the women. It is time that we regain, we get back, and we start understanding the realities of women so that they will learn with equity and also connected to the environment, which mostly affect the women. Once again, I welcome you and wish you all the best for this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, dear father. Now I call upon Miss Roshni Peter to introduce Miss Brinda Adige.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Ms. Brinda Adige, human rights activist. She completed MSW from Bangalore University. Ms. Brinda pioneered India's first child protection helpline called Makkala Sahayavani in the Bangalore Police Commissioner's Office in the year 1997. She pioneered and formulated the training module for gender-sensitive, people-friendly police supported by UNICEF. She coordinated Safer Cities Free from Violence on Women and Children supported by Hans Seidel Foundation, an arm of Bavarian Parliament. She is a part of core team of Mukti and Alliance to end human trafficking and bonded labor. She is also part of the Karnataka State High Power Committee Against Human Trafficking. Now over to Ms. Brinda.
Thank you very much and a very good afternoon to all of you. I know that all of us have been hopping from seminars to webinars, and it is a privilege today to be with all of you today. Thanks to everybody at ISI for inviting me. First and foremost, we know that we have two themes for this year. One is breaking the bias. The other is gender equality and sustainable development. And like Father Xavier pointed out, when we are talking of gender equality, we are talking of equality of all people. We're talking of men, we're talking of women, and we talk of the trans persons. And all of this to be looked at and understood in the same way that we want to understand the environment, our natural resources, so that this equality that we want to achieve is achieved without foregoing anything for our future generations, for our children and for their children. Because if you look at the kind of development that is happening today, and very often government sanctioned ones also, there is no sustainability program. We are talking about the development goals, the sustainable development goals, but we really are not implementing them in the manner that we should be doing it. So first and foremost, I want to talk about breaking the bias, and that has to begin with us, you and with me, each one of us. Often we are told that, people talk about gender equality, feminism, and that breaks families, breaks this, breaks that. Feminism, gender equality, what we are talking about is to respect all people, irrespective of their sexes, irrespective of their sexuality, irrespective of the religion they follow, the region they come from, the language they talk, the food they eat, or the clothes they wear. And these are the various biases that are dividing us today. You have noticed the last 1.5, 2 months, we've had major upheavals, violence on the entire issue of women who choose to wear the hijab. Some time back, we had all of the various laws that came into being. One is against what we should eat and what we must not eat. Of late, we also have a law of anti-conversion. All of this is basically manifesting the various bias that we have, not only against women. When we talk about biases, we need to understand that it is not just about women. Women suffer more because of the intersectionalities of discrimination and disparity, but it is also against people of different religions and especially caste. Somewhere in our heads, it is that we do not really have caste discrimination, that there's nothing like this, that when we talk about caste in a city like Bangalore, metropolitan city, it really doesn't make sense. But if you are observant and if you reflect a little bit more, you will realize that the caste discrimination has become very subtle and sophisticated. This subtlety and sophistication is something that many of us don't want to voice out. We also don't want to voice out that women have somehow got conditioned to this patriarchal understanding of how we must be and how we must behave. These are the bias that we want to break. And when we say we want to break, it means we have to unlearn a lot of things that have been taught to us and we got conditioned. And that is how we seem to behave unconsciously, including our language. You look at the kind of language we speak when we want to scold and yell at somebody or fight with somebody. All of the words that we use are primarily feminine in gender, abusing the sexuality of people. And that is what we say when we want to break the bias. But let's also ask ourselves, what are we doing when we ask this question? What is sustainable development? What is gender equality? Often people will debate and say that over the last 20, 25 years, families have broken because of gender equality. No, that is not true. When we talk of gender equality, we are talking of all people respecting each other, all people treating each other with dignity, which also now means that some of the prejudice that I might have, that you might have, need to be reflected upon and shattered. That is not going to be easy, because when we talk of all of this prejudice, we also talk about power. When we talk about power, we also tell ourselves that we are willing to address these issues, but we will not go against somebody else who's very powerful. We will not be able to achieve this gender equality and hold on to sustainable development if we are not ready to address all the prejudice, all the discrimination that we may be party to, both directly and indirectly at various levels, because power is understood as something that requires to be concentrated, as something that must control, as something that must oppress, as something that must subjugate people. And if we continue in that kind of a mode, we are certain not only about not achieving gender equality, but we will not have anything for our children and for their children. The indiscriminate consumption that all of us somehow have been pulled into, Every time you watch an advertisement, it tells you what's okay, what's not okay. It tells you what to eat and how to be. How often children and women are body shamed, are told that this is not okay, this body is not okay, this color of the skin is not okay, this is not how your hair should be. Everything. All of this is something that you and I must make conscious choices to shun. And when we want to shun these things, especially the young people, because today, if you see world over, all the companies focus on young people because India is almost the youngest nation in the world. We have the highest number of young people. Even though my government speaks about Beti Bachao, we know that female infanticide continues. We also know that when the government says Beti Padhao, it has not made those allocations, budgetary allocations that are required to ensure that every child, irrespective of where this child is, especially as a girl child, has access to free education. We talk about safety. We see that the safety is not accessible to the most marginalized and the most vulnerable. Of course, others would say that, they are very safe because of their social status, because of their economic status. But you and I know that that is also not true. Even today, we don't want to talk about domestic violence. We don't want to talk about or even raise our voice against sexual harassment at the workplace. We cannot achieve gender equality if we are not addressing these issues at our workplaces, in our homes, within our families, and if we are not open to all children being in school. Somewhere, these prejudices make us to ignore these very, very stark realities. Then we come to sustainable development. How many of us would raise our voice against the government? How many of us might have participated in a signature campaign that tells the government don't cut trees, or that tells the government don't build anything around lakes? Or we are challenging the government and telling them that this is a law that we do not want. Gender is all of this. Let's never be fooled that gender is only about women. Gender means anything that is not addressing all human rights aspects of all human beings. And as women, we are called to appreciate and support other women. We want to break this bias where our TV serials, our movies, and all their dialogues show that women are women's worst enemies. No, we are not. Whoever said that? We need to tell them that it is a lie, and we do not want this lie to be furthered by us, even unconsciously. And that is the bias we want to break. We also want to tell that women are not only capable, but women are nurturing and compassionate. And it is important for women to understand power from that perspective of compassion and of nurturing. That doesn't mean that we must not raise our voice and fight our battles when something is exploitative or is violent or is aggressive. But remember, most of us women have learned to use or abuse power from that patriarchal point of view. And that is what we want to change today when we talk of breaking the bias. Let's teach ourselves and our children that our consumption need not be indiscriminate, that we do not have to use everything and throw it away. The government is bringing in laws of not using too much of plastic, saving and conserving our water. Yet we believe that we have the money and we can do what we want. If you go to European countries, we are fined if we waste food in hotels, food that we pay for. We are charged 3 times more for wasting that food. Ask yourselves, what is my role? 2022, when we talk of breaking the bias, and we are talking of gender equality and sustainable development, it begins with us. Of course, we will not condone anything that transnational corporations and the government indiscriminately do. We must be able to come together, irrespective of our differences. All of us have differences. Our ideologies are different, our principles are different, but these common goals, sustainable development, is for our children, yours and mine and their children. And we need to leave this earth as we got it and we have it just now. So let's tell ourselves that when we talk of gender equality, we're talking of not only my rights, but also upholding and safeguarding the rights of people who are less privileged than us, who are more vulnerable, who've not had these opportunities that you and I have had and we continue to have, but also have the courage of our convictions to stand up against all the powers that might be telling lies to us about development. And you know that our lives are very important. You also know that violence in various forms is taking away many lives, young people's lives, because of how they think, because of how they behave. Lives of women, always taken for granted. Let's tell ourselves that our lives are for celebration. Our lives are also to appreciate and celebrate other people's lives. But we are also here as friends, as people who support other people. It is important that we do this from a premise of cooperation. There is no need for us to be in any kind of competition. It's not going to take us anywhere. And this cooperation comes with a heart that is open. It comes with a heart that is inclusive. And we will raise our voice to bring that inclusiveness with respect and with dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Miss Brinda, for your enriching message. Now I request Father Francis Balraj to introduce Advocate Lara Jasni.
Good afternoon to all. It's my honor to introduce Ms. Lara Jesani, Advocate, Bombay High Court. Hello, Ms. Lara.
Hello.
Yes, I would like to introduce Ms. Lara Jesani. She is an advocate who has been practicing law in Indian courts for over a decade and currently an independent litigator with a primary practice based out of Bombay High Court, National Green Tribunal. She holds a master's in political science with a specialization in Indian politics and a master's in law, LLM, with her specialization in criminal law. She takes up cases of human rights violations, in particular constitutional, environmental, development, and anti-corruption matters, death penalty or criminal cases, and in defense of human rights defenders. She is also engaged in public policy and advocacy work on democratic rights and civil liberties issues, and in human rights and legal education. She is an ad hoc committee member of the Maharashtra Unit of People's Union for Civil Liberties, PUCL, and she is a National Working Committee member of People's Commission. We are very happy to have you, Ms. Lara. Now I invite you to enlighten us on the theme of the day today with your message.
Thank you, Father Francis, for a very generous introduction. I would first and foremost like to thank ISI Bangalore for organizing this very important program and for also inviting me as a younger generation activist here to make an address. Thank you, Sister Lily, for your very kind efforts in putting all of this together and being in constant touch. I think a lot of our sentiments have already been expressed by Ms. Brinda Adige, who very eloquently put forth both an understanding of the theme of today's program and also the goals that we have set for the future. I was also going to speak on similar lines on three very important points I feel in today's time that we need to address as advocates for change and especially as advocates for gender justice and environmental justice. The first of this, of course, is how do we strengthen our fight against gender-based violence, a concern that all of us have been feeling more and more as the world is, as the world and especially in our country, we are witnessing a rise in hate, in communalism, in all forms of extremism, and also we are seeing globally how so many areas of the world are witnessing conflict, including what is going on right now in Ukraine, and has already happened in countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. At the receiving end of all of this conflict and violence have been women and children. And our fights, for justice, our fights for human rights have had, a very deep understanding on the kind of impact these kind of conflicts and this kind of rising hate and violence has on women. So that is the first thing that I feel is important to talk about today. The second, very important point, which is also raised by Ms. Brinda, is about how we as ecofeminists, as feminists of today, look at combating the destructive development that we see around us. As we will see in many of the conversations that are taking place on gender equality, especially in the context of sustainable development, women are seen to play an extremely important role in bringing about environmental, social, and environmental change towards justice and towards equity. And this role also comes from the, from the fact that women have been closer to nature. Women have protected nature as producers, as the givers, as the laborers in so many different ways. And it is the toxic masculinity, it is the a patriarchal culture that has furthered destructive development. So looking at this, and I don't say it as binary today, gender itself and the way we define gender itself is seen in binaries, and I don't want to further that narrative. But nevertheless, the entire understanding of ecological justice and environmental justice has a very deep feminist meaning and very deep feminist understanding. So what is our role as today's generation, as people who are advocating for social change in addressing this kind of destructive development that is taking place majorly from the state and the crony capital that is working with it in order to further this kind of destruction of natural resources, of ecological habitats, of very sensitive and fragile areas of our ecosystem. I think this is a very urgent issue and an issue that is at the heart of many of our conversations. And the third, I think, a very important one also, which was raised by Ms. Brinda, is on how do we address the rising communal hate. This is a very important, especially in the context of India. We are witnessing this increasing hatred towards religious minorities. This is also manifested in forms of violence, whether it is mob lynching, whether it is, crimes that are committed, hate crimes that are committed against members of the minority community, either on the basis of, the food that they eat, or the dress that they wear, or who they marry, and different kinds of choices. We are seeing that there is an increasing hatred and increasing violence against religious minorities, especially Muslims and Christians. So this is again a very urgent issue for us as feminists, as secular activists, as ecofeminists. All of these issues become extremely important if we want to really move towards a sustainable future, which looks at intergenerational equity at the heart of it. When we talk about sustainable development, what we talk about is how we will leave the world better for those after us. And what the kind of development prism that we are today caught in, has only been about destroying the environment and destroying the world, such that there will be very little left for the future generations. So when we talk about leaving the world better for the future generations, we are talking about a complete change in mindset, a complete shift in the way in which we look at development. One of the biggest problems with this word development and how it has been used either in election propaganda, or either it has been used in destroying our natural resources, in destroying our urban spaces, is what is this development? What form of development is it? And most of the projects, most of the narratives on development, most of the actual execution of of this word development has been towards destroying what is natural, destroying what is equitable. So we have these really big highway projects coming up, road projects coming up. We also have these big industrial projects coming up, and all of these projects have come up at the cost of forest resources, at the cost of our natural areas, at the cost of our environment. Yet, these projects have been justified in the name that they are a part of development and they're a part of growth. Now, the question that comes in is whose development, whose growth? This is a very important question that we need to be asking as citizens at every stage. Whose development are these, whose development are we talking about when we talk about development? Are we talking about development of certain capital interests, development of economy? Is the economy really developing? Are some particular players in the economy developing? Is this resulting in growth for us, or is this resulting in the growth for certain private players? This is one which is an economic question. The second thing, which again becomes extremely important, is what is the cost of this development? And the cost of this development is the natural resources, the environment, the climate, and the various repercussions that this destruction is going to have on all of us. The cost of these, this development is also what we get from these natural resources, and what the future generations are going to get from these natural resources. So this again becomes an extremely important, question. What is the cost of this development? And third, what is the alternative to this development? And that is when we talk about things like sustainable development. That is when we talk about things like, a green development. Now, what is happening today is that even this whole conversation on what is sustainable development and green development has been hijacked by the corporates, has been hijacked by the businesses. Such that, today, even when we talk about renewable sources of energy, or we talk about, different kinds of sustainable practices, even that has been taken over by this entire corporate narrative, which is profit driven. And even these big renewable plants and biogas plants and bioenergy plants and solar energy plants are coming by destroying forests. So how can it be sustainable? So it is very important for us today as citizens, knowing that the corporates as well as the state are using this development narrative to destroy our future. It is very important for us to develop a critique, to be able to see through what this development is, and to ask for the development that we truly believe is sustainable and that is going to enrich the future generations. So first very important, message that I would want to give, because this is a space for giving some messages, is that we need to be critical. Without us being critical today, we will not be able to bring about, any kind of change, and we will not be able to, fight for a sustainable future. So how do we, how do we fight this? We can do this only if we are together. And that brings me to the second point. What is happening today with all the hate and violence around us is a very concerted attempt of the ruling party and the ruling dispensation to divide us, to create hate, to create disharmony, so that we can't get together to fight for our rights, to fight this, very destructive development narrative and this destructive development model. We have to be able to see through this agenda and to resist these attempts to divide us, to create these prejudices and biases, to compartmentalize us, and most importantly, to create hate in our hearts. How do we resist that? Becomes an extremely part of how we will be able to fight for a sustainable future. Our economic rights, our sustainable future, this intergenerational equity is actually dependent on us coming together to be able to fight for it. And all these attempts by the state to either, cause polarization in the name of our religion or in the name of our caste, or even, to further this kind of hate and further this kind of violence, is taking us away from our real issues and our real objectives. So it is very important for us to expose this agenda and resist it very, very strongly and clearly. Take to the streets, reclaim our rights and reclaim our spaces. Because if we do not do that, and if we think that, okay, we are only going to work on economic and social rights, and we're not going to look at, the issue of communalism and the issue of, casteism and the kind of biases it has created, then what will happen is we will never be able to fight for our economic rights, because we will never come together. We will never be able to create the strength and collectivity to fight against the kind of development that is being imposed on us. So both these things are very, very intricately linked. Also, one very important understanding that comes with this is that all of us come from different locations. Every one of us comes from a different set of privileges and disprivileges, right? There are those who are less privileged than us and suffer from multiple marginalizations on account of them coming from different locations. One, of course, is the marginalization that we have as being women. So this gender bias reflects in every area of our life, whether it is from, from our education to our workplace to our walking on the streets or in the public places. It reflects in each of these places. We either face discrimination or we face violence of different kinds. So gender itself is just one of our identities. However, if along with this, we come from today, in today's India, if we come from a religious minority, we face an additional level of discrimination because of the religious identity that we have. As a Muslim woman or as a Christian woman, we face a different kind of discrimination, and that adds to our marginalization. Similarly, if we come from a historically oppressed caste, we again face, marginalization on account of our caste location. As a Dalit woman or as a, as a Bahujan woman, you face, a different kind of marginalization, which again keeps us away from resources, which keeps us away from any kind of privilege. So while we also, understand our role that we have to play in trying to address the narrative, whether it is a communal narrative, whether it is a casteist narrative, we have to also understand the multiple marginalizations that people are facing, and how, because of that, there are communities that have been historically, oppressed, that have been historically exploited, and who find it even more difficult to, in fact, combat these kind of marginalizations, to access any of the resources. So this is again an extremely, important understanding that we need to have in today's world. With the rising hate and with the rising communalism and with the rising disparities and growing Hindutva extremism, what is also happening is that these marginalities have gotten more intensified. Today, the discrimination that we face has become worse. Today, the world has become for women far more unsafe. In our country especially, it has become far more unsafe. So these realities that are there, they keep us away from the kind of, sustainable development model or any other, equitable model that we are fighting for. And this again comes to, the third and very important point. What is also, happening today is because of this growing extremism and growing fundamentalism, we are seeing a lot more, gender inequity. We are seeing injustice. We are seeing that, women are today, at the receiving end of gender-based violence. Even if you look at the kind of, statistics that are doing around today, 1 in 3 women experience gender-based violence or sexual violence in their lifetime in the world. This is a very huge number. When we talk about 1 in 3 women, it means that every third of us has actually faced gender-based violence, right? We're also seeing that, not just in, not just in the sphere of the bodily offenses committed against us, because intimate partner abuse is so rampant. We are talking about 38% of women who face, intimate partner abuse. At the same time, this has also led to a loss of economic opportunity. 24% of the women, as per the Oxfam India report, women get paid 24% less than men, as per the Oxfam India report. And this is just the average figure. The pandemic has led to disproportionate losses to women. So we are talking about, women going even far behind during these last 2 years of the pandemic. And this is not just about domestic violence, but it's also about, in the workplace, women are not being rehired. Women are being hired at lesser pay. When we were doing a lot of relief work and we were doing field work in the busties during the pandemic, it was the women who were actually forced to work at half the pay if they even wanted to work when things opened up. They had no choice. First, they resisted it for a month or so. And then after that, when they realized that they had to make their living some way or the other, many of the women were forced to go back at half the pay. So pandemic resulted in an enhancing of these inequities. So we're talking about, now starting from an even lower position than when we were before the pandemic, as far as a lot of women's issues and women's rights concerns are concerned. So it's a very urgent situation that we are experiencing today. So all of these things, to think that, the destructive development is not connected to the rising hate and is not connected to the gender inequities is going to be our biggest fallacy. We will have to first and foremost recognize that, all of these three things are very intricately connected. And if we want to fight the gender inequality, we are going to have to fight, both the nature of development that is taking place in our country and also the growing fundamentalism and extremism. This is the message that I would like to give today. I don't want to take any more time, but I hope that, we can come together, all of us, collectively in many different spaces and many different occasions such as this, to strengthen this fight. And it is only if we are together, we are going to be able to, come back from, not just come back, but reclaim much of the space that we have lost and advance towards, better society. So this is the one hope that I have. I don't want to sound very dismal. I am very optimistic. I think we will all come together. I think we all have the fire in us and we all have the intent, which is the most important thing in bringing about change. And I'm very optimistic that, things are only going to get better, but it will not happen if we all, stay divided and if we don't come together to fight this oppression and exploitation together. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Miss Lara, for your provoking message. Now, thought-provoking message. It is time to move our feet online as we have a students from JMG College Shigon with their dance.
सागर है पर हिम्मत है संग, पाँव पे छाले हैं सांसें बुलंद, लड़ने चली हूँ आजादी की जंग। बेखौफ आजाद है जीना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है रहना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है जीना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है रहना मुझे। रीति की जंजीरें खा गई जंग, न्याय के मंदिर भी हो गए भंग, जमाना चले ना चले मेरे संग, लड़ने चली हूँ आजादी की जंग। बेखौफ आजाद है जीना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है रहना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है जीना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है रहना मुझे। आज से अब से आन मेरी मैं तुमको ना छूने दूंगी, जान को चाहे छलनी कर दो मान को ना छूने दूंगी, छू के देखो दिल मेरा तुम्हें दिल में अपने भर लूंगी, पर छेड़ के देखो तुम मुझको मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी। स्कर्टें साड़ी रात दोपहरी डर डर के नहीं चलूंगी, कैंडल जला के सैंडल दिखा के मर मर के नहीं चलूंगी, कदम मिला के देखो तो मैं साथ में तेरे चल दूंगी, पर छेड़ के देखो तुम मुझको मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, मैं तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी, तुमको नहीं छोड़ूंगी।
Thank you, dear students, for your beautiful and marvelous performance. You have truly given the message of liberation of women. Now I request Miss Maria Rosalyn Sheila to introduce Miss Vidya Dinagar.
Good evening, everyone. Wish you all a very happy Women's Day. I am happy to introduce Ms. Vidya Dinkar, who is a social and environmental activist from coastal Karnataka and has been actively engaged in standing up for the rights of women and minorities. She is an advisor to Jana Jagriti Samiti and also coordinates Growth Watch, an action research group, and also the national president of Indian Social Action Forum, a platform for 720 member organizations and movements across 15 Indian states. She is also a core group member of National Solidarity Forum. Now over to you, Ms. Vidya.
Thanks so much. And thank you, ISI, and thank you to the speakers who spoke before me, Lara and Brinda. Made my life so much easier. I do not have to speak so much. And that reminded me of where we all started, actually. It started with hardworking women, not women like me who like their rest after two wonderfully, powerful women have done all the good work. So it's a long time ago, more than 100 years ago, that women before us decided, and these were all working women who worked in garment factories, who decided that they needed to speak up. And they are the ones who brought in the 8-hour working day. The whole concept of 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours to do just what we please came from women. So really, they have been the smarter and the bolder ones who have really led us in important struggles. And I think Working Women's Day is today celebrated in a very, a rudimentary and superficial manner today, with everyone passing around notes of congratulations and WhatsApp forwards on Women's Day. But it really came from the working class women, and that kind of movement spread around. They talked of the right to vote, as I said, the right to work specific hours of day, and the right to rest and recuperation. They also spoke, and I think today it's even more important because, of course, it's not like the world is ever free from war or want, but now it's somehow more real for us when Ukraine is being besieged in this manner and people are fleeing. And men are staying back to fight, and the brave women move across. I think we should also remember that our sisters, much before 100 odd years ago, 110 years ago, talked of, we do not want war, we want peace, we want bread, and we want land. So these are the core issues that I think we must not give up on. Even now, our issues have really not changed. And if this, Brinda reminded us that it is about, I think she had said, without bias, if I am not mistaken. Yes, break the bias, which is the International Women's Day theme. But there's also the theme, which is today's theme, which is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, which tries to recognize the contribution of women and girls around the world who have been leading the charge from the front on the climate crisis, on mitigation, adaptation, on pushing financial institutions to be more accountable to people and communities on the ground. And so therefore, I always feel that for women, every fight is not about themselves. It's about their fraternity, it's about the sisterhood, it's about solidarities, it's about families, it's about communities, etc. And therefore, those are the fights that are really inspiring. Lara spoke of the pandemic and how it has pushed us back, and it really has. I heard a figure this morning that we were about 100 odd years, short of achieving gender parity. Yes, a full 100 years. So congratulations, all of us here in the room. No one is going to see gender parity. It's not in our lifetime, not in our children's lifetime. So forget it. But now, after the 2 years of the pandemic, it's apparently the magic figure is 136 years. 136 years to achieve basic gender parity, equality between the sexes. And on the economic count, apparently it's more than 250 years. So either we say, give up, this is too big a hill to climb, or like those inspiring women, including Clara Jetkins, who then came along, will we actually roll up our sleeves and say, there's work to do, we need to bridge this gap, we need to make this happen not in 136 years, not in 250 years, but maybe in 50 years. May not be in my lifetime, but hopefully in the lifetime of young people here. Someone is clicking away. I think Sharda Wadeyar, you have to be muted, and I have done exactly that. So, I think more and more, every Women's Day should be about the working women around us. In every home, of course, we have our mothers who toil away, and whether she is a working mother going out and earning a living, still the family's responsibility seems to still rest on her ample shoulders. It's also the ASHA workers, the Anganwadi workers, the sanitation workers, the cooks in schools, etc. They are the cornerstone of our entire society and its well-being and its sustainability. And I think not paying them a decent wage is just not done. I don't know how we can just stay quiet when all these women who really build our society and our children and our future are somehow not being paid enough, not being paid for 6, 7, 10 months. So this is something that we should, I think, at all times remember and relentlessly pursue, stand with these women and fight with them, because they are fighting their fights. They are demanding, they are fighting, they are sitting in dharnas, and we need to be there shoulder to shoulder with them. I live in Mangalore in coastal Karnataka, and we all know that a rather small incident of some girls wanting to sit with the hijab in class was really, it took on huge proportions and has country in a way, and definitely our state by storm, and it's become like a crisis. And here we see the typical feudal patriarchal system playing out, where women's bodies are once again the site for contestations. Unfortunately, a lot of this is just political contestations and posturing. So this is unfortunate that in today's day and age, something so basic, I mean, it's a no-brainer. If a girl wants to come into a class and study, there's nobody who should be stopping her. The Constitution guarantees her the right to walk into a classroom and get an education. The state, it's responsibility, and the state is always trying to remind us of its duties, of our duties towards the state. It's the state's duty to see that these young girls are back in class. Instead, their colleagues or their classmates are writing exams while these girls are outside class, not able to write their exams, worried about their futures. Their parents are frantic, and there's this entire division. So, and we know that COVID had a differential impact on the education of girls and other communities too, who are marginalized in our present system. And in this context of an almost post-COVID situation, where girls and boys are going back into class, to keep children away from class because of what they're wearing, I mean, this doesn't make any sense. And the misrepresentation of the interim court order is also, of course, very mischievous, and it attempts to target Muslim girls. We know that Muslim girls, some of us may not agree that hijab is a right. I mean, let me be honest, I cannot bring myself to say hijab is my right or parda is my right. I would say the right to choose to wear a hijab is my right. But when articulate and really, really vocal and girls who are excelling in schools and colleges want to wear the hijab and hang on to those markers of religious identity, we must understand that this comes in a whole ecosystem of where we have Sulibai deals and Bulibai deals and etc. And this kind of pushing against the Muslim woman. There are even, very celebrated journalists who had the wrong end of the stick just because they are Muslim. There's tech fog, which is technology used against bright, Muslim young leaders, thought leaders. So this is the context in which young Muslim girls feel the need to hold on to the hijab and to say hijab is my right. And I think whether we agree or not about them wearing a hijab, we must stand with them because it is their right to decide they want to wear the hijab. It is their right to education. And we must uphold that because what is the Constitution? It isn't, of course, social morality. It is the morality that we bring, which is a constitutional morality that we need to sort of define and adopt and enact every day, every day. And I also want to say one last thing. By them removing the hijab and entering a classroom, is the GDP of India going to go up? Is the life of women or marginalized communities in India going to suddenly look better? What is going to change? So why are you insisting on this? How does the state, get better in any way through this forceful removal, which was really, really quite disturbing when they made teachers and young girls remove the hijab or leave college premises or school premises because they were wearing one. How is Bharatiya Sanskriti and the great Bharat going to be greater because you'll make a young Muslim girl remove the hijab? If they just answer me this question, maybe I can consider what they are saying. Therefore, I think there are many battles, and these are all battles that we need to fight together. These are all interconnected, as both our speakers, Brinda and Lara, said. I'm here for questions. Meanwhile, most of all, I'm here in solidarity. I know ISI does good work with communities that are marginalized, and that's why it's wonderful to be here for Women's Day.
Thank you, dear Miss Vidya, for your words of encouragement and inspiring message. We shall now have an open discussion for 10 minutes. Over to Sister Deepa George, Assistant Professor from St. Aloysius College, Bengaluru.
Thank you, Sister Lily. First of all, I would like to wish all the women out there a wonderful International Women's Day. And I'm very sure, like from maybe last night, this morning, and throughout the day, we are receiving a lot of messages on who a woman is, like what is being expected of a woman, lot of encouragement and proud moments. Like, you can actually feel that you can be really proud of being a woman. And I suppose the best part of the day had been this last maybe one hour, 15 minutes, when we listened to these eminent speakers, Brinda, Lara, and Vidya, who actually have touched the core issues that are being faced by women. And congratulations to all three of you for speaking so wonderfully well and giving us a lot of enlightenment on the issues that have been faced by women. And now, all the participants, the floor is open to you. You can, of course, raise your questions and get clarified, or you can also voice out your opinions, your take on what you have been listening so far. So now the floor is open to the participants. So I suppose there are a lot of students from various colleges and participants from other places also. So you may make use of this your opportunity to clarify your doubts and then voice out your own opinions. And there is a request from Sister Lily to everyone that you may put on your videos as you raise your question, so it will be like, it can be more interactive.
Yeah, kindly all of you open your videos. Already I have sent the message.
There seems to be a silence that cannot be broken. If nobody speaks, then Brinda, I and Lara will start chatting away.
Again, yes. That's all we must do.
If anybody is having any question, they can put in the chat box.
Comments are also welcome.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially the men in the room, please do not get intimidated by all us women.
Yeah, men also can ask any doubts or clarification.
Oh, share your comments also, because all three of us, Vidya, Lara, and myself, absolutely believe that men are alongside with us to fight this battle on gender equality. It's not a woman's battle at all, ever.
And men can be equally feminist.
Absolutely.
Proudly feminist.
Ah, yeah.
So Prem Mani says, indeed, we are with you all and we support you all. I, for one, am a very proud feminist. Thank you, Prem Mani.
Thank you, Prem.
Thank you.
Okay,
I
sister.
just wanted to add a comment since no one is speaking. But it is commendable how, you know, the Bangalore civil society as well as the Muslim students have actually, you know, stood up for their rights, and we all from other places, you know, have been watching and supporting and offering solidarity. But it's clearly like, you know, a very difficult time and moment for all of you. But I wanted to, you know, express my solidarity from here and from all of us, rather. We have been writing statements, we have been issuing letters in support, but it's nothing compared to, you know, the street fights that is going on there and the protests that are going on there. And it is very unfortunate that the legal machinery has, you know, aided much of, you know, the crisis that, you know, the people are facing. So one of the things that, you know, I always say, and I think it's very relevant in today's world, that most of the fights that we as women have fought and have, you know, furthered have not taken place in courts. And sometimes, you know, this over-reliance on courts, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes that we make. Even if you look at the Shaheen Bagh protests and the you know, valiant efforts and, you know, the strength and courage that was shown by women who led those protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act and the NRC. It is not the courts that actually, you know, helps in situations like this, in spite of petitions being filed in courts, some of them filed by some of us. nothing really came out of that. But it was actually the sheer strength of the women and the sheer strength of the people who had the constitution in one hand and the Indian flag in the other, and claim their identity and claim their nationality and claim their citizenship by coming out on the streets. I think that is a very big lesson that we learned. Similarly with the farmers protest, which we've seen, both the men and women farmers, and especially Bahujan farmers, who all came together and fought for their rights. I think these are the times which are going to require us to take on the streets and claim our civil space and claim our democratic rights and our freedom of speech and expression. Not the time for courts to intervene, because I, for one, as a lawyer, have seen that we can't really repose all our faith in the judiciary. It will have to come from within all of us. So
in fact,
that is
Lara,
something I wanted to say.
Yes, thank you. And in fact, we are planning coming together in Udupi, or rather we will be planning coming together in Udupi. And I hope you can join us, because we hope to have a primarily women-led, coming together in solidarity of the students in Udupi, from where it all started this time. And Brinda, Lara, sister, everyone here, we will let you know, and please come and join us and be there, because about 2 weeks ago we had a small discussion with some of the girls who had stood up for their rights to wear the hijab in class, and we put together some people who listened to them. And after that, and I was thinking, oh, this was not such an interesting program. Maybe I shouldn't have bothered, because it's what we know, the same things being said. But then after that, each of those girls came up and said, thank you. And I was wondering why. And she said, and they each said, but nobody had listened to us until now. So we really felt that we were listened to. And for that, thank you. So really, if all of you can come to Udupi when we plan this and listen to these young women and what they're saying, what they're feeling, that would be very powerful, I think. Right now they're under so much pressure that even from within the community, they're being pressurized, saying, isn't the education important? How is your hijab more important? There are parents also telling them that perhaps now is the time you should just take off the hijab, otherwise you can't write your exam. But somehow these girls have the fire. And I think it is really Shaheen Bagh that is somehow inspirational in these young girls' minds. And they're sticking it out. And they think it is larger than just wearing the hijab in class. They think it's larger in a sense, and that they are doing it for the idea of India and for upholding the constitution. So in their mind, what they're doing has great import. And I think we should be with them in that.
Thank you, Vidya, for those wonderful comments. Thank you so much to all the three speakers who have actually enlightened us and given your comments. I suppose, all that we have heard today, we will be able to take forward. For the next coming year, to take all this in, to be more and more empowered and to become a women of real strength. Thank you so much. And I suppose since we don't have any more questions or comments, I think this session will be we'll be winding up this, and I hand over to Sister Lily. Thank you, Sister.
Thank you, dear Sister Deepa, for chairing this session within the allotted time. Now we have students of St. Philomena's College of Nursing, Bangalore, with their mime. Thank you, dear students, for presenting beautiful mime on women empowerment. Showing gratitude is one of the simplest yet most powerful things humans can do for each other. So now I invite Miss Christina Mary to propose the vote of thanks.
I take this opportunity to thank everyone on behalf of Indian Social Institute and the entire fraternity. I feel immense pleasure to propose vote of thanks. I thank Ms. Brinda Adige, Ms. Lara Jasani, and Ms. Vidya Dinakar for being with us and sharing their knowledge and enlightening us on the different walks of life of women today. Thank you. We immensely thank our dear collaborators, St. Aloysius College, Bengaluru, JMJ College, Shigon, St. Philomena's College of Nursing, Bengaluru, JMJ College, Sirsi, and other colleges. Also, Fourth Way Foundation, Bengaluru, and all NGO partners, friends, for making this event a memorable day. And I also thank our dear Father Joseph Xavier, Director of Indian Social Institute, and all staff for your support and encouragement for this program. My deep sense of thanks and appreciation to all the participants who attended this webinar with great enthusiasm. So, make International Women's Day your day and do what you can to truly make a positive difference for women. Thank you once again and wish you all happy International Women's Day.
So thank you everyone.
Thank you all.
Also, congratulations.